Welcome, everyone, to the Darker Tan Asians podcast. I'm your host, Victor, alongside Joe. We are here with our good friend, Ashley, Callahan, and David Holguien. Ashley and I met at film school, and Ashley, Joe, and myself, we did a film together, short film together, award-winning film together, which we're going to talk about later on. Welcome, Ashley and David. Thank you for coming on our show.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
And Ashley, so we're gonna start with you. Tell us where you're from and what brought you to Southern California, because I know you're from somewhere else. And what got you into this? How and why did you get into this film industry?
Yeah, so I'm from a small town in Central California called Visalia, California. It's by Fresno. And what first brought me to SoCal was like the prospect of filmmaking. And I was actually at the beginning of another master's degree here in Visalia, and I was doing a business master's, and I realized I really wanted to do something more creative. And with all my writing and acting background, I just really was feeling like that push to kind of take the next step and maybe take the risk and go into film. And then my friend actually passed away that same semester. So that kind of was the jumping off board for me, just kind of shoot for it and go for my dreams and try it if all else fails. So found a wonderful family in Southern California that I moved in with. I have wonderful roommates, and just kind of started from there and began my film program at Regent after I did some research and found it online. And yeah, I just decided the best place to probably try to make films and meet people was going to be in SoCal, since it was it was not an on-campus program because I couldn't really afford the on-campus experience. So the most financially beneficial thing for me was just kind of do it remote and then just do the best that I could with it. So that's kind of what inspired me to move and to kind of just go for it and make films in SoCal and just kind of see what I could do. I just kind of made the jump. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to. I want to introduce David as well and how you guys are connected. So David and Ashley are recently engaged, and David as well has he has he has a good interest in film. David is I know him. I've worked with him, and he's a visionary too. David has this sick cinematography vision. David, how did before? Obviously, you had film aspirations before you met Ashley. How did that come about?
My film aspirations, just like anybody, nerd culture is pretty much like mainstream culture at this point. But I think that, grew up on movies, and, my mom, I spent a lot of time with my mom, and she didn't care what was on. Don't get me wrong. She had her limits for me as a child, but
right.
It would be adult drama, adult dramas would be on, and,
right.
She'd put that on, and I'd end up conking out, but it still exposed me to a lot of actors and directors at that time, and so the names were very, very familiar, from my childhood on. And it's very competitive in the household when it comes to when it comes to music and movie trivia. But I think a big thing for me, especially outside of movies, was probably video games. I think that as an emerging media for narratives and stuff, I think that was a big thing for me growing up. I think as we've reached the heights of fidelity, in HD gaming and how everything is in 4K, but just the quality in, the character models as well as the acting, I think that's been a big influence on me, and why film's a big part of, I don't want to say it's a big part of my life, but, it definitely is inspired some of my aspirations, as well as some of the more trickier things of the industry that I had wanted to sort of take on, but it's such a big behemoth that I don't know. I just wanted to get my voice in, which is why I made Crit, which is the title that is it's like a double entendre type deal, but nevertheless. With Crit, there was a Moment Invitational Film Festival that I did that for, and ended up meeting Ashley on a dating app. And I was
those things still work?
Actually,
yeah, it was my last try.
Let's hope so, because David's on.
I was actually I was actually quite nervous to, I mean, I was enthused to tell her about it as like a jumping off point for conversation. But then knowing that she went to film school, I don't have any like training in the slightest regard, that I was like, do I tell her there's an invitational? Sure enough, I told her what it was part of. She's like, oh, I think I'm going to enter. I was like, oh, uh-oh. Luckily, there are different categories to enter, and she was entering in the documentary category. So I was like, oh, okay, you know, the competition's not going to be there. But yeah, that sort of kind of got us to where we are right now. And, you know, and of course we worked on Teach Me How to Pray. And that was a very, very impromptu project that was a blast to work on. And yeah, it was just kind of, it was fun to cooperate with the both of you two on that one.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean, what a talented couple, Joe. I mean, it's you know, you worked with Ashley before. Obviously, we're going to talk about that soon. But you know, hopefully one day we all get to collaborate. I think it's going to happen soon. Yeah, I really do.
Love that. Let's do it. Yeah, but actually, speaking of how you're multi-talented, so when I met you, you had mentioned you had done acting before. You do writing, you do producing. She does all of it, and she's really talented. You know, I don't work with just anybody, and it's like when she showed me that script for Tir Na Nog, I was like, I need to get on this. This is amazing. But you know, you do all three. So you do producing, writing, acting. Do you have a favorite of the three, or how does it all balance together?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I think that I definitely favor writing and producing. But probably writing is kind of what got me into film. I wanted to kind of take my stories and make them into visual medium. And my dad has a really he loves film, and he was into the whole like Western filmmaking, and my dad's actually, he did acting for a long time, and he was pretty good at it. And he's in like a Clint Eastwood film or two, like a small role, like when he was in college.
Whoa.
So that was kind of like, I think that was kind of like the inspiration for me to start doing some acting. I did acting for years. I'm really glad that I have that background. It was so much fun. I studied Shakespeare. I think that really helped my writing in the long term. But I definitely do think that I favor like writing and being behind the camera more than I do acting. But it's still a very useful skill to kind of use whenever I need to, like in Tir Na Nog. I did not want to cast myself in the film at all. And I had this lady, you remember that lady that we had that was perfect for that psychiatrist role, the lady with the dark hair?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember her.
I wanted to cast her, but something fell through with her or something, and so that I ended up playing the role, which was actually really fun because I got to kind of be, you know, I got to, you know, be directed by Joe and like see, like kind of have the perspective of like my film set from like the acting point of view. So that was kind of fun for me. So I was just really blessed to work with all of you guys, because you guys were just so like skilled in what you were doing and so like experienced. And I was kind of coming in and I learned a lot from you guys. Like I truly did. You, Victor and Zach, and everyone else that worked on the team was really like, I learned a lot from you guys. But yeah, to answer your question, I think I do favor like writing and producing and directing. But writing is like my one major like focal point that where all that kind of stems from.
Yeah. I think the acting background also helps the writing too when it comes to like dialogue and knowing what sounds good. And your producing on Tir Na Nog was amazing. You kept us all together like glue, and you had a vision. And you know, we got a cool producer's cameo in there too for you. So that's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
You knocked it out of the park as well too on your acting as well.
Oh, thank you. But that is a good point. Like when writing film scripts, it is kind of nice to have that acting background. I didn't really think of it like that, but yeah, after years of like reading other scripts and like kind of seeing like how people structure it and how they, you know, create, because dialogue is so tricky to master. It's so hard. At least for me, it can be hard to write. But that's a really good point. Yeah.
Ashley, obviously we met through film school, and how did that help? How did the training help with the filmmaking, writing, producing?
Oh, can you repeat it one more time? I think it cut out.
Yeah, sorry. So we went through film school together, right? How did film school help the producing, the filmmaking, you know, all the things that you've learned? How did that help? Because a lot of people, you know, going to film school is nowadays sort of like, oh, you don't need it. But how did that help you, you know, with the project that we worked on, and then other projects after that? and going forward as well?
Yeah, it was really helpful for me. I don't think that I ever could have pulled off Tir Na Nog without having, because film school kind of provided me like a structure. I think that like, because I wasn't really someone that like, I like to be like in the classroom and kind of like learn it and then apply it. So that was helpful for like my style of learning. But yeah, it was really helpful because it gave me a lot of aspects of over film apart from like the creative, like the whole business backbone of it, and like seeing like how to run a production company, the different kind of levels of production and what roles do what. That was super helpful for me because I didn't have like a huge like in-depth context of like the different roles, because like there's the screenwriter, the director, the actors, but then when you really get into it and you see like, there's line producers, there's like lighting people, there's like first ADs and like second ADs and prop masters. It's kind of like you get that fuller context, and learning that was really insightful for me. And then just as simple as, keeping me on a schedule to like kind of, get Tir Na Nog done, and learning how to like write a business plan or like how to cast people, like, because we were working with people that we were meeting like online and like they came from kind of all over.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So kind of keeping that all structured, like that's kind of where I think it helped me for sure. And then just like, from the writing, because screenwriting classes helped me immensely, like how to structure a script, because I'd written like plays before, but screenwriting wasn't like a skill that I really had developed yet. So that was helpful for me to like learn from like the bottom, starting from like scratch, to like how to write a screenplay, like how to write a 2-minute scene, like how to do like a 4-minute scene, how to write a feature film, and how to like when we went through and we kind of like read through a feature film and did a whole like the 1/8, like the 4/8, like the different script
breakdown.
Script breakdown.
Yeah.
See, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Script
Remember those?
breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely helped.
Yeah, so all that was really helpful for me to just kind of give me that perspective and that bigger kind of view of like what goes into a film and how many small parts that there are and big parts, and just how they all work together.
Yeah. I feel like there's huge benefits to going to film school. I went to film school too, but David, as kind of like a little impromptu question, so you learn filmmaking more organically. Can you tell a little bit about like how your training came through in the field, and growing up?
I would say, I guess I could start off with where I first really started paying attention to cinematographers' names. I think a lot of people love the critically acclaimed show Breaking Bad. Michael Slovis he was a big time showrunner on that. Like he was there for as cinematographer, like for the majority of the episodes. And just seeing his name scroll at the bottom of every like episode, it just burned into my brain. And just kind of looking at some of his other work that he had done, he really didn't do a whole lot of work after Breaking Bad. That was kind of like I don't know if that was his cash cow or that was his out or what, but he had a few projects after that, quite a few before that, but older gentleman. But yeah, once I started seeing some of the time lapse shots in that show, as well as the really tight, obviously like drama field type shots, but a lot of the landscape stuff, because I like to do nature photography as well. Oh, cool. So I think that was kind of a big appeal for me. That and like harkening back again to like the video games, there's this emerging feature in a lot of video games now where it's like every new game almost has to have a photo mode. And so I can sink a lot of hours into that, where you're kind of just playing with a lot of the in-game effects and kind of getting a feel of where, just the framing of shots and stuff. Yeah. That's where I would say that's had, it really wasn't around before I did Crit. But Crit, that was where I got a lot of like hands-on sort of experience. And it was very organic, and having my buddies who don't really have any, hands-on experience with that, but they at least, they're fans of all sorts of mediums, and they helped me. And there were actually a few shots, one shot in particular, my buddy really helped me with. And, I was more than willing to listen. I don't really, I just say that I don't know what I'm doing. I have a feel of what might be, a good idea, but, I think the hands-on experience with that, I really love shooting, and gosh, I need more experience. I think a big thing that I can draw from that was just how arduous editing can be. I enjoy it, but you have to dedicate a lot of time to that. And if there were ever an expertise that I know for sure, like I'd ever have to hire out, or I would have to get like specific, like professional training, is audio. Audio is like incredibly, I don't know, that it's just hard to master. Just maintaining the levels and range of, you know, from scene to scene, as well as making sure you're getting crisp audio from each person in each shot. And I did that with a lot of mobile gadgets. I mean, Crit was a mobile film. It was a mobile film. And luckily, you know, these phones are just getting that much better by the year.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just it's so easy and compact that it just made it that much more affordable with what you have in your pocket. And granted, I had to buy a few things, a few lenses. I mean, not to like name drop product placement or anything like that, but Moment's done a lot of good stuff with phone cases where they've tried to get a lot of the flagship phones, and they have their proprietary lenses that attach to them. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that's where a lot of my experience came from, was doing that short film. The writing itself is another thing. Ashley's more the writer than I am.
She's so good.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she's constantly at it, where she can crank something out in a matter of hours, would take me like days or months. You know, she's just, you know, she just gets to it, you know?
Yeah. No, she's wonderful. I mean, speaking of you know, writing, Ashley, you wrote Tir Na Nog, which brought us all together. Yes. And when I saw it, I fell in love with the story, and I was like, you know, she's got good spelling. It's got good story structure. Like it's
great grammar,
you know,
great spelling, great structure.
Movies. Exactly, but you know, you don't always get people who are just naturally good at writing. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for the Tir Na Nog story?
Yeah, I was actually like painfully slugging through my feature film for my class in grad school at a really wonderful and inspiring and challenging teacher, Professor Holguien. I think Victor remembers him too. Wonderful professor. He was kind of, I don't think I've told you guys this, maybe, or haven't told Victor, or maybe not David, but he was kind of like what kind of inspired Tir Na Nog, because he was pushing me to really explore like more Celtic lore and like really get deeper into it. Because for my feature film, there were a lot of these Celtic themes and kind of like these whimsical themes. So I just delved into research. And then one night, like I was just kind of thinking about all the research that I'd done, and like Tir Na Nog was kind of the story that kind of came out of it. I thought, wouldn't it be cool like if we could apply like some sort of like Celtic lore, or like a person from Celtic lore, apply these different themes in this like little narrative and make it like interesting and grounded. So like that's kind of where Tir Na Nog came from. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, for me, I grew up in like almost an all Irish kind of, you know, school, and it was kind of interesting to see like all the Celtic legends, and you know, there's just such a rich history behind that. And I love how you took something that was like, you know, folklore, but then you made it modern. I think that is like magic plus modern always, you know, is like a good cinematic experience.
Oh, thank you. Where'd you go to school where it was Irish influenced? Or
it was actually called Notre Dame, right? Which is a French
go figure, right?
You know, but it's they're the Fighting Irish. You know what I mean? And,
I went to Notre Dame College.
Oh no, high school. I went to,
Joe's from New Jersey. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah.
So that, but Joe's from the East Coast,
so we had a lot of Irish New Jerseyites, and that's where. So I was like, oh, this reminds me of some of the stories that we learned in some of our books. So I was like, I was drawn to it as well too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So actually, I don't think we've ever had sort of a formal or informal post kind of discussion after Tir Na Nog, but I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Oh
my God.
So obviously our co-host Joe Bactus directed the film. What was it like working with him as a director? I have to ask.
It was really fun. Like I said before, like I learned a lot from you guys, learned a ton from Joe. So sorry, my dog was in the background. But just it really kind of, Joe really helped to kind of push everybody. And to kind of, you know, reach for doing the scene the best, or like going deeper into like the script. So it was incredibly inspiring working with Joe. I couldn't have asked for a better director for the film because I think that, you know, I have never met someone with like such energy like for directing a film. And I don't think I would have gotten that with anybody else. So Joe has this tremendous energy. He wants to get to know the cast. He's very personal with the cast. Like he just really cares. And it didn't really feel like a stuffy film set. It felt kind of like, you know, just we were just kind of friends making something, but Joe just kind of was like that push to kind of get us to where it needed to go. So yeah, just that's what I can say about Joe. Just a really, I don't think I couldn't have asked for a better director on Tir Na Nog. Just yeah.
By the way, I did not ask him to ask that question.
No, he didn't. That came from my brain here. And you know, Joe, him and I, we met through acting, but we met through stunts and martial arts and fight choreography. Mm-hmm. And you know, we always harped on trying to be this like versatile and versed in everything as far as everything film. So I was like amazed too. I was like, man, this guy Joe is really talented, and he's just not a you know, fight choreographer. He's just not that. Because usually when you put like martial arts and film together, you think stunts and fight choreography, right? It's always attached. But you know, Joe, again, I'm not trying to toot your horn here, but he's a real deal. He's very talented, and actually you are too. I'm just like here, like, oh man, I'm getting the chills just like being around talented people. And that's
I'd like to chime in. But I mean, well, in regards to both of you two, I mean, before she gathered the courage to show me Tir Na Nog, she was so nervous, and mind you, she spoke the entire time while I was watching it because she just wanted to add in every bit of commentary. That's funny. But before, I mean, she was talking how she met you, Victor, and then she was talking about her experience with Joe and just how confident of a director that he was. But yeah, just that fierce passion. She more than like relayed that to me before I even watched it. Man. But of course, I got to work with Victor, and Victor is he just knows how to power through, and he's quick on a take, man. Like when we did the shots for Teach Me How to Pray, there weren't a whole lot of takes for each scene.
No, there weren't. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm blushing, guys. I mean, like,
Victor, you know,
I can see why I'm red right now.
He's been talking about everybody else, but he also was producer on Tir Na Nog, and he helped bring it together. And he had a little producer cameo as well as the priest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he did that because he knew as a producer how shoots go, and he was kind of ready to get in there just in case, you know, the original priest doesn't go through. And he was ready. He knew. He came prepared.
It was really easy because, you know, my dad is a pastor, and you know, I had a plethora of roles to choose from, so it was just right there at my disposal. So it was great, and just the whole atmosphere was awesome, and I appreciate you guys for the kind words. I mean, that's you got this darker tanned Asian red here, you know, so I can see myself like, oh my god, I'm getting red.